What's up, everybody? Welcome to Earn Your Couch. My name is Coleman, and this is my big brother, Jacob.
And at the end of the day, we're just two brothers trying to figure out how to maximize our lives and hopefully earn the couch.
We're just trying to figure it out.
Not a big deal.
Maybe earn our couch a little bit.
We should be able to earn our couch a little bit.
Go on a run.
Not bad. It's nice. Really nice.
It's the best. Welcome to Earn Your Couch. You just wake up and I'm like, all right, what's the best way to start my day? And I'm just going to go for a run. And it just turns into like, oh, I'm just going to keep going. Or I'm just going to keep going. And then by the time I'm like at 6 miles, I'm like, oh, that's cool. It's like, that's what I want. But it's been really fun.
What are you enjoying about it?
The competitive atmosphere of, I can do another like half mile. I can do another mile. I want to get to 7. You know what I mean?
It's like just challenging yourself.
Yeah, and also running is such a good de-stressor. Anxiety levels get lower for me, and I really, really enjoy the after feeling of running, if that makes sense. So like afterwards, you're just like, yeah, I just did that. Like this weekend, I want to try and go for like 8 just because I just want to do it type of thing. So we'll see. But regardless, like before I started to just really get into the Strava and just start running, right? And I feel like a lot of people have this issue where you go on vacation or you go out of town for like 3 or 4 days and everything, all your routine is just, it's not there anymore, right? Your routine is completely different. You're not in the same environment. You're not doing the same morning routines. You're not drinking the same coffee. Everything is different, right? And then getting back to that routine is even harder to do so. And so like a couple weeks ago, I went out of town for 4 days, and I was so used to waking up in the morning, going for a run, going to the gym after work sometimes, and like kind of doing the morning run, afternoon gym session, trying to do something that day. And then you go out of town and you're like going out and spending money, going out, you're not eating the best that you could be eating, drinking less water because you're out and about, you're not actively trying to drink water like during the day like I normally am. And then 4 days go by, you get back home, and you're in that moment of like, oh, I'm exhausted. Like, I don't even want to unpack exhaustion, right? You're trying to like reset the house or the apartment. You're trying to go to the grocery store all of a sudden because you need to go get groceries. And you're just like resetting, where after all that, it's hard to just want to go to the gym. It's like really difficult to want to just go run. What you want to do is just sit and relax because you're exhausted from the travel before, right? And it took me like probably 3 solid days to actually get back up into my normal routine of waking up early in the morning, not drinking as much, drinking a lot more water, going to bed earlier, being on my phone less. Like, you really needed to start to do little things to get back into it, because what I found is I can't just jump right back into my routine because there's so many different little things that need to happen to get back into that routine. One is, rehydrating yourself. One is wanting to, actually set yourself up for success the next day by preparing for the next day, right? Whether that's checking emails for work or setting up your workstation or doing the dishes that were left, right? Like those little errands also that need to get done. And so what I struggle with is getting right back into that routine without having that 3-day period of time to get back into it. And I just don't know what the best process, or if you have a process yourself when you do this, is to just get back into it without having that 3-day period of time, because then you get setback, right? And I don't want that setback.
For sure. I don't have any sort of science back behind this, but I feel like humans are, a lot of us are creatures of habit in general. And so one of the things that I've noticed is like whatever the reality looks like in the last 24 to 48 hours is like the reality that you're currently living in. Even if 3 days before that you were dialed and you'd hit 5 days in a row of working out. If you take one day off, you're probably fine. If you take 2 days off, you might be fine if there's not a lot of change. But if you take like a 3 days where like you're traveling 3 hours and you're visiting parents, or you're at an Airbnb with the girlfriend, and like your reality shifts. It's like the same idea like when you like go on vacation, sometimes it takes like a day of being there to be like settled in and not thinking about work and not being like this is what I normally do, and like that thing is no longer available. Like it takes a little bit of time to like get into it. And then it's the same thing. It's like it takes a little bit of time to like get back into what was the previous routine. So to your question on tricks, and I think giving yourself a little bit of grace and understanding it's like, okay, I haven't been home and there are things that I normally would have taken care of because I was home, whether it's the groceries or taking care of the house or doing whatever is normal. Take yourself out of that so those things aren't taken care of, so you have more things on your plate. It's another easy way for priorities of personal health to go lower. And so giving yourself a little bit of grace of being like, okay, I was just out of town, like I have some things that I need to figure out. I'm going to get back into it, but it might not be the first day that I'm back. You get back like at night, and like I think like at night, the night before, and you're like, hey, I want to like get back into the swing of things and like kind of be at my peak once again. One phrase that has stuck with me is just get in the car. Get in the car. Get in the car doesn't necessarily mean you need to get into a car. Maybe it's just like going for your run. Like just start the thing, because that like activation energy that's required to do the things that are quote unquote hard higher when it hasn't happened in the last 24 to 48 to 72 hours. And humans effecting change is one of the most challenging things that we have to deal with, whether it's within an organization, in our communities, or just for our personal life and our personal habits. And so just telling yourself to get in the car rather than think like, oh, I need to go for like an hour or 15 workout. Like those are just mental blocks of this isn't going to work today. But if you say, hey, just get in the car, I'm just going to go. And even if I just do something for 10, 15 minutes, I do something for 10, 15 minutes. And like letting that first day back kind of be a dipping your toes in the water per se. Because then once you have that under your belt, then the following day, your previous 24 hours has now been reprogrammed, where going to the gym is maybe the expectation. So get in the car is something, and get in the car comes from a professional dancer who lived in New York City, and she'd have to wake up at like 4 a.m. to like go to practice or rehearsal. And like on the days that got really challenging, like when she didn't want to go, all she told herself was get in the car, because once you get in the car, the rest follows.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I think another struggle with it is, and you've probably felt this way, I'm sure a lot of people do, honestly, because you get into that vacation mode, I guess you could say, where kind of like what you're talking about, when the last 24 hours, 48 hours of what you're doing kind of becomes the reality that your body, like your physical body and like your actual mind is used to doing. And so you get used to working out, being physical, pushing yourself mentally, and then when you take that away after a couple days, you remember, like your body like physically remembers how much easier it is to just sit on the couch or to just not go and do the extra thing that day to tire yourself out. And I think the biggest struggle is when you go so long without doing that normal routine of, like you said, even 15, 20 minutes of running lightly. When you're not used to doing that and you're used to just, hey, it's pretty easy to just not go do that. it becomes so much harder to get back into that,
Mm-hmm.
especially when you add on top of, maybe you're out and you're going to breweries that day and you're drinking more beer than you normally do, and then that sets you back because you become more dehydrated, you feel worse, your body's it takes longer to recover,
For
and
sure.
that buildup leads to getting back into this routine becomes so much more difficult than it really needs to be. And I want to be able to find a way to go do those fun things, because I want to go to a brewery and go out and have fun, but I also
Yeah.
want to be able to get back into my routine quicker. And so the whole like idea of get in the car like makes a lot of sense, because for example, if I go for a vacation for 5 days and I come back, what's going through my head? It's I gotta get ready for work. That's a lot of like time to look back into because you missed 5 days. Or oh man, I gotta like get the house ready, meaning I gotta do laundry, I gotta get groceries done, I gotta go get dog food. Like there's all these different errands, all these things run through your mind. If you just start with the one thing that you need to do, then that has kind of like that domino effect, is what you're saying. Then you just continue to get more stuff done.
Yeah, I like to like I'm sure you've heard me say it, but I love the phrase never miss a Monday. Um, because similarly to like a weekend, now I like to do a lot of workouts on the weekend if I can because I have more time, there's less pressure, I can kind of just take my time and leisurely work out. But let's say you go out of town on a Friday, you get back Sunday night, you have all this stuff that you know you need to get done. You're probably feeling a little bit worse than you normally feel because maybe you drank or maybe just the travel was long days and you're eating worse than you normally would if you were just in your kind of consistency. Um, but if the phrase "never miss a Monday" rings through, you're kind of setting the tone for the week. Because if you skip the Monday, and that means you've skipped your Sunday, you've skipped your Saturday, and you've skipped Friday because of the travel. Now all of a sudden you're 4 days out, and you're back in this place where your normal or your reality becomes I'm back at home where I'm not participating in this activity of discipline. So never miss a Monday when it's in a normal week. I like to make it my hardest workout of the week because once again, you're setting the tone. And when you start out with something hard, the rest of the week kind of falls into place a little bit easier. But if you're coming from out of town or you're kind of trying to break back into your routine, doing stuff like sport on a Monday night or setting a plan with someone like, hey, I'll meet you at 5:30, or even better, I'll meet you in the morning for a workout, just to give yourself some like engineered discipline where it's like I don't want to like not be accountable to the person that I set a plan with. Someone's expecting me to show up, I'm going to show up. If you're doing a sport, it's kind of that idea of making it easier so that you're doing something active, but it's not like I got to go push my body to the limits right now. It's like, oh, I'm just going to go play some pickleball, I'm going to go play tennis or anything like that.
No, that totally makes sense. It's funny you say that because I purposefully schedule like morning meetings, um, like early for me. So like 7:30, so that I have to be up and get stuff done before that time, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So and it creates this like chain reaction where I go to bed on time, and if I wanted to get a run done in the morning, I would have to do it before that 7:30
Mm-hmm.
meeting, so I'm doing it early. And if I need to get other stuff done prior to that meeting, I have to do it before then because my meeting's at 7:30. It just kind of creates that chain reaction of setting yourself up for success that day, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like that's what I purposefully do, and that makes a lot of sense. So that's cool.
Well, you feel I forget the term for it, but like you fill the space that's provided. And so it's like when you set a deadline for yourself, like in 2 weeks, like you'll get it done within 2 weeks, but more likely than not, it's going to be in those last couple of days that it actually happens. And so to your point, it's like when I have morning meetings, you have like basically built-in accountability where like I need to show up and be prepared because I care about my work and I care about respecting the other person's time and yada yada yada. And so your brain now has a a more confined space in terms of what's available, the resources that are available, and so you're going to use those resources well. Uh, Dom always likes to say, when you have more to do, you get more done. So it's like
It's
we've
so
all
true.
had to have a bunch of stuff going on, and you just kind of I have all the time in the world. I could do this later. And then
Procrastination.
later comes, and then one thing that this reminds me of, and I've talked about it a couple times with some people in my life the past week, but it's been something that I've thought about pretty regularly, is this the idea of the four burners theory. So four burners,
Yeah, enlighten me.
you can think about it as um, burners on a stove, and I just think of them as dials. And each dial individually can turn up all the way to 100. But combined, all four dials can only add up to 100.
Mm.
And those four burners represent different areas of your life in which require your time, your effort, your energy, your resources. And those four areas are your career, your health and well being, your social life, and your relationship. And so the idea of the four burners is that one, you can't turn up all of them to 100 and expect things to work. You're going to burn out, you're going to blow up. You just can't do it.
You're gonna burn out.
Uh, you're going to burn out. Um, and so the idea that it can only add up to 100 means that, hey, you only have a finite amount of resources and energy and time in the day in order to allocate towards these different areas of your life. But just because you turn up, career to 50 doesn't mean that it needs to stay at 50 forever. But you can make decisions about your day, about your week, about how you want to allocate your time, understanding that there's room for those dials to dial down and to dial up, depending on what's the priority at the time. And so going back to last week when the World Series was happening, we
It was the
know, go
best.
Dodgers.
Yeah.
It was the best.
One of the best weeks I've ever
Um,
had, honestly.
right. And so
That's what I'm telling
that
everybody at work. I'm like, that might have been one of the best weeks I've ever had. Like, so anyways,
it's
go on.
yeah. But like prior to the being the best week ever, I knew that it was a priority for me to be able to watch these games. And these games started at 5 o'clock every single day. Well, in general, like I'm working till 5 or past 5. Um, or if I'm working till 5, then I go and work out at 5:30, and then now there's less time available, there's less energy available to go do the things that what I would consider my normal routine, my optimized routine. But this was important to me. And so internally, I knew that I had dialed up. I'm just putting it in the social bucket as like my leisure time, my, I'm watching it with friends, I'm doing whatever. Dialed that up. But somewhere things had to be dialed down. On top of the World Series, I'm also in a very chaotic, time with work, with like where the projects are currently at. So I knew that my career couldn't turn down in order for me to continue to do the job that I wanted to do. And so I turned down health. Like I had to. And like my normal is 3 or 4 runs a week and 3 or 4 workouts on top of it, lifts, and maybe a game of pickleball or something, which is a lot. I'm aware of that. So my health might be in like the 30 range if I had the dial of 0 to 100. Well, I turned it down to 10 so that I could turn up social plus 20. And that meant that I wasn't going to be doing my normal workouts after work. But I was like, okay, how do I still fit in doing the things that I need to get done for work and still be able to feel good about sitting on the couch and watching the World Series and just being able to be present and enjoy it as opposed to sitting there also working and half in, half out. And so I kind of just came to terms that, hey, this week is going to be morning runs, and I'm going to run 2 to 5 miles depending on how I'm feeling. And then I'm going to get after it at work at 7 a.m. so that I can confidently close the laptop before the World Series started and be able to enjoy it. And I felt like a piece of shit. right? Like I felt because like my normal was changed, but I kind of had to like have that conversation with myself and give me that grace. It's like, hey, this is not what every week is going to look like. There are just different things that have popped up, and so I can look on it on like the on a daily scale where like my health is going to be at 50 because I don't have work today and I can go work out and do a hike and play pickleball and do all of that. Or I can look at it on a weekly scale and be like, hey, you know what? Monday and Tuesday are going to be sacrificed a little bit in terms of social because I want to do health and I want to do my career. But knowing that if I turn it down for Monday, Tuesday, I can turn it back up Saturday, and readjust. And so you're kind of constantly fine tuning it. And what I think it does is it gives you a little bit of room to breathe, that like, hey, you're not like as on top of everything at all times. And I also think you can have that conversation with Jillian or people in your life being like, hey, this is important to me, so these other aspects of what I normally do for you might be turned down a little bit. It has nothing to do with anything changing other than this other thing that I want to make is important. And then having this conversation with one of my friends last week, I thought about it and I was like, okay, if these burners are an allocation of your time, effort, energy, and you're trying to be on top of your health and you're trying to have a social life and you're trying to date and you're trying to do all this stuff, well, naturally, your work, your career is going to take up, let's call it 60 to 70 of your burner points on a weekday.
Right.
Because you got to be there, you're working, you got stuff to do, you got things to handle. The friend that I was talking to was a teacher, and so it's like, what are you going to do? Like, are you going to be social? Are you going to be dating like during that time that you're at school? It's like, no, you can't. And then so to be frustrated on a weekend that like, hey, like I didn't put as much effort and time and energy into dating as I normally would, like, well, like, let's have a little self audit. Did you not put time, effort, and energy into dating because you just did absolutely nothing? Or did you not put time, effort, and energy into dating because it's been important to you to work out in the morning and to go to the grocery store and to make yourself a good meal and to get to bed at a reasonable time so that you can do that again? Like, I just don't think you're allowed to get upset with yourself. And I think a lot of people do, that they're not just doing everything all the time.
Right. Well, because
But
then you
you
get
just can't.
overwhelmed. You get
Burn out.
overwhelmed when you try and do everything all at once. It's just not possible. At least that's for me too. I mean, I will burn myself out, like you said, super easily. But the whole idea of like actually mentally having a conversation with yourself, kind of using the 4 burner method and like the dials of how, yeah, realistically, not everything can be 100%. Even like your attitude at the end of the day, you're not going to be 100% positive every single day, right? But you can choose to have positive moments, and then you can choose to react differently towards negative moments that happen, right?
That's a whole other
And that's something,
beast conversation that plays into it.
and being more positive about things is something I've been trying to work on, but something that I really do want to get better at, and that's, like you said, a whole different conversation. But just going back to kind of like wrapping it up in terms of like the routine, that's the other thing, is when you're gone for so long, you're in that headspace of this is my new reality, and then when you hop back into your old routine, right, how you're normally doing things, you're adjusting to all that. You need to be like, I think the best way, really, for me, what I'm going to do is understand I need to just turn one burner on that day. And when I get that one burner down, which is probably work, the other 2 will turn on, and then you continuously go from there. But it's the same reason of overwhelming yourself and trying to do a ton of things at once. It's going to take longer to get back into that routine when you overwhelm yourself. And I think that's why it took me 3 days to get back into waking up early, going for a run that day, drinking a lot of water, limiting the amount of actual like beer and alcohol I drink, and And once you get past that, once you're back into it, you remember like, oh, this is great. I wish I
Yeah.
got back to that sooner, you know?
Crazy. Like 4 days earlier, you're like dialed in, and then you take 3 days where you're literally just like either unable to do what you normally do because you're not in the same place, or you're sick, or whatever. And then like the thing that you like woke up that you were fired up about, like I'm gonna go run. All of a sudden you're like, oh my god, like I know I should, but I really don't want to. And then it just takes like 2 days of doing it, and you're like, how could I? Why would I ever skip this again? Like,
Yeah, you're like, this is the best. And
I feel better, I work better, I'm happier, I'm more confident, like all those things. But it is like there's a psychological game, and to understand kind of the limits of a human's ability to go through change and the obstacles that are naturally placed when it's not in your immediate rear view mirror. Like that run is not, when you're in the mode, like the running is not easier. It is in some ways, like you're more in shape and you're eating better, you're sleeping better, yada yada yada. But like that run is not necessarily easier. It's still hard, but you're in a mode where you're used to doing hard.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like the idea of like ice baths or like a cold shower in the morning. Like the first cold shower, if you haven't done it in days or weeks, is miserable. Like you don't want to do it at all. But if you've done it 2 days in a row, it's like it's nothing. Like it's just because you're just like, yeah, this is what we do. Like this is how it works, and I know how I feel about it. But when you have that break in between, your body's like, I don't know if this is gonna be, all that it's chalked up to be, man.
Well, you also build up for it too. Like mentally, you're like, I really don't want to do this. I really don't want to do this. I really don't want to do this. And it makes it way worse compared to like kind of like what you said earlier, just like get in the car and do it. It's building up mentally. I did that. I definitely would do that and make things harder than I mentally need them to be. And it reminds me of like cutting weight back in wrestling days, where the first time you're cutting anywhere from 7 to like 10 pounds, it is the hardest thing in the world to do. And then the second time you do it, it felt a little bit easier than the first time. And then the third time, you're like, yeah, this is just my routine now. But it's building up those really hard tasks to make them feel easy. And when you get out of that routine, it's really hard to get back into that. So get in the car and just do one burner, and a chain reaction will follow. That's kind of what I've gotten out of this.
Most hard things don't get easy. You just get better at doing hard.
That's a good point.
Like, think about all the things that you're doing now, like with work, that were like hard when you first started. It's still the same level of challenge, but you have more tools, you have more experiences, you've seen what works, what doesn't work, you've seen how you feel if you prep for a meeting right versus how you don't prep for a meeting right. Like you start to equip yourself with skills and experiences that allow you to be better at dealing with hard. And I think the brain power to do hard things is often a mental block, which is what vacations tend to do, is they throw things off. Like the holidays are really hard for people because now it's been a week and a half where they haven't done their normal stuff. They've been eating a bunch of candy, they've been drinking wine, they've been the biggest worry in the world was making sure that everyone showed up to the holiday party. Like your challenges change. Mm-hmm. And so getting back into doing those challenges that you're now not used to doing, even though it's only been a few days, are that much more difficult.
One last thing about the burner thing. Do you find that when you like focus too much on one, you almost like are thinking about doing the others? Like you're needing to do the others? Like, so for example, when I got back from my trip, got back to work, and I'm sitting down and I'm working, I was thinking in my head that day, like, I gotta go run, I gotta go do laundry, I gotta go, like, so many different other parts of my life that, like, I felt like I needed to do. but I was also focusing so much on one portion of it that I felt like I wasn't giving the other portions enough attention, which is why I was thinking that, if that makes sense.
I think it comes with just experience grappling it and having this concept in your head and then seeing it work over time. Because even if you're like, I'll put 85 of my burner points towards work today, it doesn't necessarily mean that you don't want to put 30 into your health or your social life or whatever it is.
Right.
It's just more of just like acceptance of like, hey, this is what the day requires of me. And in order to be the person I want to be at work, I need to put a little bit more time, effort, and energy so that I get the week started right. And then I think it's about like having like the small wins with the other aspects of what you want to do. It's like, okay, I know that I want to go for a long run, but like I got to go grocery shopping. I got to take care of work. I got to like clean the house up now that we're back. What can you do in the with the constraints that you have on today to give yourself just like a taste of getting that number back up to 30, back up to 25, so that the next day it is easier. And I think for a lot of people that looks like, you know what, I can't go for a full run, but I'm going to take my dog out for a 25-minute walk.
Mm-hmm.
And on that walk, I'm going to think about the things that I need to get done and kind of plan out the rest of my week, kind of make sure that I'm organized. And so you're kind of stacking things that, you know, need to happen, but you're also giving yourself a dip in the pool of getting back into what you know to be routine that makes you feel as good as possible.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, man, after like 4 days of being back into the routine of just eating healthy, running, taking the dogs out, doing the things I want to do, feeling good, sat on the couch and I was just like, man, this is awesome. Like watching the World Series at the end of the day after doing all that stuff. Yeah. It's earned. You got to earn it.
It's great. Like I love lifting. And like if I have a few days off where I'm not lifting, like I have in the battle, like I know I haven't lifted in a few days, but like I don't want to go. Like I just don't want to. And so figuring out ways to make it fun, make it enjoyable. I think a lot of this kind of works for the normal person who's just kind of going through life and like wanting to make health a priority, wanting to make their career priority, wanting to make their relationships and social life a priority. I think it's different if you're training for an Olympic sport and like if you miss a day, you're falling behind. Like at the end of the day, you're not falling behind. You're just taking a sidestep. Yeah, dude, like there's other ways to earn it. It doesn't have to be just a full-blown gnarly workout. Like it felt earned when I like, had the World Series at 5, but like I chose to wake up and go for a run at 6, get on work at 7, like grind until 4:30 and then be like, okay, I didn't do what I normally consider to be earning my couch, but like with like the confines and the parameters of the current situation,
you World Series,
like if it was a normal week and it's game 76, 77, 78 on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and I'm making all those sacrifices, then it might feel a little bit less earned. But different things have different meanings.
Yeah. No, it makes sense.
It's all relative.
Makes sense.
I think, just to kind of recap it, if you're trying to like get back into the routine, get in the car. You don't want to do it. Just make the first step the goal. Get in the car, start the run, go for a walk, stretch, do something that's achievable. Second thing is setting the tone. So if you're gone for a weekend, just in your mind, all right, I was just gone Saturday, Sunday. I kind of fell out of my routine. I'm not going to miss Monday. Let's start the week off right because Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is going to be much easier. And then the third thing is the 4 burners theory and just acknowledging and giving yourself some compassion that the priorities and where you're spending your time, effort, and energy is going to adjust, knowing that it's not a permanent change. And it might be a week straight where career is dialed up to 90. And like you cut out social life. You cut out, for me as a single person, you cut out the dating apps and like it's like, but my time, effort, and energy is going into the thing that's going to ultimately fill my bucket. And if being good at my job and like finding success there is filling my bucket, then I can be okay with turning that up to 90, knowing that when the weekend comes, that's going to be down to 0, and I can turn my health up to 50, and I can turn up my social life to 40, and I can turn up dating to 10, and then readjust as the next week comes along.
Yeah, so it fluctuates.
It's not daily, weekly. Yeah. Do you think, just a little caveat here, the thing that goes down to 0 is your health? Max number of the other 3 goes down. I think if you decide, I think most people who have a lot going on choose to make health 0 so that they continue to be social, they can continue to invest in their relationship, and they continue to do their career. I don't have an exact number for this, but I think if you put health down to 0, which means you're waking up, you're eating like crap, you're not sleeping well because, the job is so hectic right now, and you just need a snack, and you just like need to have a glass of whiskey at the end of the day, and like health goes down to 0, by consequence, I think the maximum goes down to like 67, 70, 80, whatever that number is, but you no longer have 100. And so to me, career is in general about at 50, just based on like the time and effort that's required to do the job. But health needs to be at least a 10, which is why like going on like a 2-mile run or going on a couple walks, or hey, you know what? I can't go to the gym this morning, but I'm going to roll out and stretch for 20 minutes before I start my day and kind of like get my body right. Because then you can actually use the 70, 80 points that you're assigning towards your career and still have the energy at the end of the day to like do the social thing or to do the romantic thing or whatever it is. So I think that's
so funny you bring that up. That's what my therapist and I were talking about this week, actually, is how, because I was telling her I am so much more productive the days that I go for a run and like go for a run that morning. And then from there, I am more productive in my meetings. I'm more energetic. I get more projects done. And then by the end of the day, like I'm still energetic. I'm not tired. It wasn't a rough day. I'm in a better attitude. And she's like, yeah, that's like, there's science behind starting your day with a walk or a run and giving yourself the opportunity to have a really good, productive day from it. And that's what we talked about during our session was, because I was telling her, like, I just like running, I guess. I don't know. And she was just like, yeah, it's a scientific fact. And so that's funny you brought that up.
I think you're doing yourself a disservice if, because you're stressed about having a million things to do, the thing that goes away is the thing that's going to lower the stress in the shortest amount of time. Like, that's why, you felt it with the stress lowering, and the people get addicted to working out because you feel better, you like yourself more, you're more confident, you start to see changes that you think are pretty cool. There's so many benefits, not to mention the compounding effect on that, the impact that it has on the quality of your sleep, the impact that it has on when you get home, you're like, I just worked out, like I don't want to eat like crap and like make it all go to waste. Like I'm gonna eat a good meal. The impact that it has on your confidence and your energy and what you bring to work, because you are a more confident, more energized, happier version of yourself. And like, that's why I think Never Miss a Monday is such a great thing. And that Monday can be different depending on what the weekend looked like. On a lot of Mondays, it might look like, for me, it might look like a Murph, which is just a gnarly workout, but yeah, that's setting the tone. On other Mondays, it might look like a 2-mile run at 6:30, super slow pace, but just to like get out, do something, sweat. That way when I like get on work, and if work just gets bamboozled and I'm on till later and I don't have that time, effort, and energy to do what would have been a normal workout after work, well, you got something done. You didn't skip Monday. And so now Tuesday should be a little bit easier.
Yeah. No, that's a great way to put it. That's a great way to put it.
Kind of want to like do the math and like figure out like what number burners should actually go down to if you put health down to 0. Like, what is that, like, I don't know if this is the right word, but like the confounding variable, like what is the impact that has on those other ones?
Do some research. Start studying your friends.
I feel like it's more of just like a vibe kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I truly, like, I don't think it goes down to 50, but like 75, 80.
Well, I think you're definitely right. because at the end of the day, before I was doing any sort of running, because I was taking some time off to not be active for no reason at all, it was definitely days where I was less energetic, less happy, felt like a piece of shit, and it was because I wasn't doing something to push my body or myself outside of the work, the relationship, the social life. And now that I'm doing that, now that I'm back in my routine of doing that, all the other portions of it it's all positive. Just like you said, it's all higher. The energy levels on each burner are higher than they were if I was not running, if I was not doing something for myself outside of the other burners. I don't know what the number is.
There might be some sort of factor too, where if it's at 25 or 30, like your maximum goes up as well.
Yeah, I mean,
and there's other aspects to it too, like health, physical health matters, mental health for sure matters, and so like doing the things that are gonna like improving your physical health, I think, naturally improves your mental health. But there are times when the mental health is so bogged down with stress or things that are going on that the physical does go down in priority, and like it can naturally. I have all this stuff at work. I need it. Like I have to prioritize this stuff. But like if you don't have your mental health in line, like if there's like relationship stress or struggles, it almost has a much worse effect on like the maximum number for your burners in terms of your energy, effort, able to go into your career and able to go into your social life. Because if you don't have your mental health, that house in order, everything else kind of goes to crap. What I love about the physical is that it's so much in your control for the most part. There are things that happen, but it is something that you have autonomy over into how much effort you put in and making it a priority. And like no one can take that away from you if you're doing things the right way. The way it gets taken away from you is if you put it off till the end of the day, every single day, and you just like, you have a job that naturally just like spirals out of control, and like you have to put out fires, and like all of a sudden like nothing matters. And if you have like a family at home, then those priorities like come into play. And so
run out of time.
I think owning the morning is another topic that we can get into, and like the impact that, as you felt, that waking up early has, and the ability just to get shit done prior to other people needing your attention, needing your energy.
So glad daylight savings is back, because it was starting to, I mean, the sun wouldn't rise until like 7:30, almost 8 o'clock the past like month. And I was like,
it's so dark in the afternoon though.
Yeah, but I'm trying to get up earlier. So now that the sun is rising like 5:45, 6, it's so much easier to wake up early. But yes, I do agree. It being dark by 4:45 is frustrating. But I also really like the fact that I can wake up at like 6 and go for a run then, and I don't have to wait until X time to run. Because where I'm at, there's no lights. You know, I'm not gonna go run in the pitch black. I'm not gonna go run in the pitch black forest where there's mountain lions that are seen all the time. It's not gonna happen. But I'll do it in the light.
You need a headlamp, man.
I do need a headlamp. We should get a branded Earn Your Couch headlamp, because why not? I don't know.
That would actually be sick.
Yeah.
I got one the other day for like whatever, $11, and it came with the batteries, which was nice.
Okay. Thank God.
And I've worn it. I'm often wearing like a headband when I'm running, so my hair doesn't just get in my face.
Yeah.
And then I put that on, and I was like, oh, I got my day headbands, and I got my night headbands. My night headbands just has a fucking little thing on it.
Yeah, no, it's the best. That sounds actually awesome. I should get one. In the mornings when I've been running, it's been like 37 degrees out, 38 degrees. And so I'm wearing like a beanie, sweatpants, jacket, and it's just being able to like just easily see your breath. Yeah, I feel like I'm training for wrestling all over again, and I fucking love it. It's awesome. It really is. Like, that's what makes me want to keep running every day, is feeling like I'm back in my wrestling days training for something big when in reality all I'm doing is just running. That's it.
Dude, I mean, in reality, all you're doing is training
Yeah.
to be the making the most out of human training. That's what you're
Yeah.
doing.
That's a good point.
Like, when I was doing coaching, like a lot of people like that we talked to were like, I treat my professional career like I'm a professional athlete, and the only way that I can show up and be a professional athlete when it comes to my marketing executive job is to be as mentally sharp and as energized and as confident as possible. And the only way that that happens is if I'm consistently exerting myself physically. And so the same way that I think a lot of the challenge for professional athletes is not the physical training part, because they're all just gifted and they have people doing that. The best become the people who are most mentally disciplined. And so the people who are in mental work, the people who are most successful become the people who are most physically disciplined. It's not black or white. There's definitely people who don't work out who are successful. And there's definitely athletes who don't need to like study the game as hard and still are successful. But on average, if you have the same skill set mentally as the person next to you, if you're showing up physically dialed, you're going to be more successful.